has a lot of water content in it. You're watching the Weather Channel. Bill Keneally with you. We continue to watch the snows pile up. Washington, D.C., snow fell starting at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock last night. So far, about 15 inches on the ground across the Washington metro area, especially north and west of town. Now New York City getting in on the act, and the New York City metropolitan area bracing for quite an event. Snowfall tallies so far this season already approaching the seasonal norm, and now we have a potentially foot, maybe another foot and a half coming down the pike later on today and tonight. I want to take you live to the Weather Channel's Jill Brown. She is on remote in the park. And Jill, I look at that ledge behind you. It looks like 4 or 5 inches of snow already.
Well, there was some snow on the ground, Bill, when we started here. We have about 3 or 4 inches, we think, of new snow. We are on the south end of Central Park, an area you might be familiar with, even if it doesn't look familiar now, covered in white with the visibility now reduced. We're just off Columbus Circle. But the snow has been picking up, the winds have been picking up, which is probably the most disturbing thing at this point. And we've had reports of bad road conditions now for hours. They actually improved a little bit down in New Jersey just because people had left the roadways, and that's what we're hoping that they're going to do. Areas a little bit farther to the north where things are just starting to get bad at this point. They have now declared a state of emergency on Long Island, and also here in New York City. Mayor Giuliani had declared a state of emergency just, I think, within about the past half hour. And we're also hearing that now they are going to cancel school here in New York City tomorrow. And from what we understand, it's the first time that's happened throughout the city since the 70s, which is really kind of hard to believe. But the snow, again, continuing here. It's really not that heavy yet, but conditions are likely to get worse and worse through the evening.
And Jill, you're over there by Central Park South, normally a very bustling area by 59th Street. Normally a lot of horse and buggy rides going on this time of the day. I don't see much action.
No, actually, there were a lot of people out this morning, surprisingly, on bikes and jogging in the park. And we had a few sledders earlier. We went down to one of the local stores. Mark had asked earlier about, is there a big rush at the grocery stores? Well, of course, you don't see a lot of grocery stores here in Manhattan, but there is a big rush at the outdoor clothing store. And I saw one guy buying cross-country skis. I don't think he's going to be able to really use those today. It's going to be so miserable out, but by maybe tomorrow night or Tuesday, that might be the best way to get around town.
All right, Jill Brown, thank you very much. Prepare for an onslaught later on today and tonight. Snowfall rates of probably 1 or 2 inches per hour. We'll come back to Jill again in about 30 minutes. I want to show you some pictures. Our storm has had quite a legacy to it. First of all, we'll start you off in Tennessee, show you the snowballs, and the snow flurries continue, especially into New York City now up in the Hudson Valley. Noting these heavier bands, these darker bands of green coming up the Hudson Valley. So Albany and up around, say, the Northampton, Massachusetts area, and Boston, you're living on borrowed time. Snowfall is moving up in your direction. Now around Washington, south and westward, a couple of breaks, so we'll get a little better of a handle on the snow, I think, the next few hours. But note how back in Ohio and Indiana and Kentucky, snow continues to fly. That twirling area of low pressure still back over the Louisville area, where, by the way, Louisville's had around 10 or 11 inches of snow, and that upper low will have to track east. And before that does happen, the chances of snow will continue for Washington, Baltimore, and Philadelphia, probably through into the midday hour tomorrow. Low pressure, there it is around Wilmington, North Carolina. The low itself is now just starting to feast on the Gulf Stream waters just offshore. As that low does strengthen up, it'll be a twofold attack. I think it'll draw some warmer air farther inland. So up around the Dover, Delaware area, maybe Cape May, New Jersey, we may eventually see a transition over to rainfall. However, it's going to throw very heavy snowfall across the interior. Now, the other facet to the storm will be the chances of some very high tides. And once again, we'll shed light on that for you momentarily. Snow history locally, 1 to about 2.5 feet already in parts of western Virginia and also Virginia. We can show you now a little X here This area right about over south central West Virginia, 22 inches in and around the areas right near Lewisburg, West Virginia. And it looks as though that area is going to see probably another 6 inches. Snow down through Atlanta, Huntsville, Alabama picking up a couple. We mentioned Louisville, Kentucky picking up 10 inches. How about Dayton, Ohio picking up around 14 so far? Snowfall in the forecast. Watch out Wilmington, Philadelphia, the New York City area, right up into Boston. Boston, I'd say south of the Mass Pike, you're going to see some heavy snow. That blizzard warning will probably be issued for level low. That's still hanging back right about over here. Meanwhile, we continue to watch the developing surface low. And again, that surface low is right about here in North Carolina. That'll track on up offshore New Jersey later on today and overnight tonight. Let's go back to that radar scope, see what's going on. Try to give you a depiction of that rain-snow line now. That rain-snow line pretty much right around Cape May down to around Salisbury. Then you move just inland. We go to rain in Norfolk, but then just inland over by Franklin, Virginia, and over by the Richmond area, there's some sleet and freezing rain falling, and that is falling at a very heavy rate. Now, looking at the northern fringe, Boston area, the sun was out last hour very dimly. Looks like it's disappearing now. Snow is now falling down around Duxbury and Providence, light snow, Hartford, some heavier snow down through the Fairfield County area, New York City Metro, Philadelphia Metro, and Baltimore getting clocked. Now, there is some sleet in there. Some of the orange depictions in Delaware and South Jersey are probably some areas of very heavy sleet. There's that upper level low hanging back over Kentucky. Snow continues even around Chicago. Some lake effect snow continues around Chicago, down south to about the Kankakee area. Now, the other facet, once again, as that low comes on up around New York City, the high up in Canada, we're going to draw in a lot of wind, and there will be some flooding at the time of high tide. Coastal flood warning, Watch Hill down at Chincoteague, and also storm warnings, Fenwick Island, Delaware, all the way to the Merrimack River. That will likely get extended up into the New Hampshire and Maine shoreline. That could be a...
Right, blizzard-like conditions are going to continue through this afternoon on into this evening and also for rush hour in the morning. So make no mistake about that. The winds will continue northeasterly at about 25 to 45 miles per hour. Those strong gusty winds producing the blizzard-like conditions. So it's going to be very rough the rest of the afternoon on into tonight and for rush hour in the morning. It always amazes me, this kind of weather, there's always someone who's out. Cecily Tynan, down on the street. Cecily?
That's right. I found Tony Thornton. Now, this is the definition of a good friend. Why don't you tell all our viewers why you're out now?
Well, I have a friend that needed some groceries, so I went shopping for her. And I brought the groceries to her house. I decided to walk.
Why did you decide to walk? You're walking like 2 miles in the snow. Yeah. Why did you decide to walk instead of drive?
Because I thought it would be more effort to dig my car out of the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not too safe either. So why don't you tell, without getting too personal, what you're dressed in? How many layers do you have?
I have these ski pants that are thermal insulated, and I have a ski jacket, and I have a couple of sweaters on and a turtleneck.
So you have what 4 or 5, 6 layers?
6 layers.
And how are you handling the cold right now?
Actually, I feel pretty warm. I'm starting to sweat a little bit walking.
I think your sweat is freezing to your face.
Standing here.
Okay, Tony Thornton, we don't want to keep you any longer. What a good friend, though. Your friend should be very happy.
I hope my friend appreciates it, too.
Yeah, really. I hope your friend is watching
I hope so.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Tony. I really appreciate it. Now, well, thank you. I keep going inside, though. Tony's back on his way home. He has about a quarter mile to go. Looking behind me on City Line, it probably is a good idea, as long as you're dressed for the weather, to walk instead. We have a snowplow moving behind us. I've seen snowplows going about every 5-10 minutes, but as you can see, it's really not making much of a difference. The snow is just falling so heavily, the wind is whipping it around, that City Line is still just covered in snow, and the cars are taking it very carefully. I've seen a lot of fishtailing around, and I'm prepared to jump out of the way if a car starts heading in my direction. But a virtual whiteout here on City Line, and unless you're dressed in 5 or 6 layers like Tony, my advice, once again, is just stay inside if you can. Right, Dave?
Right, Cecily. The people running the plows and the sanders and everything have been doing an outstanding job. And one of the problems therein is those people have been working for a number of hours, and the people that relieve them, to come in to relieve them, are having difficulty getting to their location. So as the storm goes on, it becomes more disruptive for people throughout the entire area, for services, for hospital people, medical people that have to get to hospitals, and those people in vital occupations. So far, we're not reporting any electrical problems or anything like that. We got a little bit of sleet and freezing rain mixing in. Things are iced over completely. There could be some power problems. This storm is, we're going to pay a severe price for it. We're paying that price right now, and it could get worse. I want to go back to Action Radar, and once again we'll show you the large size of this storm. It envelops a huge area, all of New Jersey and Delaware, and of course Pennsylvania, on up into New York State, over to the Virginias, on into Ohio, back into Indiana, back down into Kentucky and Tennessee. People down in Alabama and Mississippi, some of those areas, the northern portions, they're picking up some snow also. And then there's that line of sleet and freezing rain, and then rain to the south of that. Now here on City Line Avenue, we've seen several changes since we've been out here since early this morning, and now we're starting to get that sleet again. So that's mixed in. This storm continues to make its own moves. It's a severe storm and a major snowstorm for the area again. We have officially well over 15 inches here in Philadelphia, with much more to come. So blizzard continues through this afternoon, through tonight, and into the morning hours. We hope by between 9 a.m. and noon for the snow to finally move out, but the strong, seriously gusty winds will hang on. Jim?
Dave, these accumulation patterns are a little unusual. Normally we see less snow by the Jersey Shore and farther south, and then as one progresses north through the city, more snow, and then into the northern and western suburbs, and particularly the Lehigh Valley. But the accumulations you gave just a little while ago, 8 inches in Margate, 15 inches in Philadelphia, and then only 7 inches in King of Prussia. It is something of an idiosyncratic storm.
Yes, Jim, you're absolutely correct. It's just the opposite of what we usually get. We always seem to be talking about those folks in the northern and western suburbs getting more than Philadelphia, and of course now at the shore they usually get a break. Down at those shore areas, though, they're getting the heavy snow today, and they're getting the sleet and freezing rain now, so they're getting pounded down there as well. So the system is a unique system. It's a nor'easter type system, loaded with snow, loaded with moisture, and it's doing things that normally it doesn't do. Jim?
Thank you, David. We will check with Joe Torres at the shore in just a little while, but right now let's go to Kathy Gandolfo, who's on Route 70 in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Kathy, what's the situation there?
Well, Jim, it is very slow going, and really the roads are extremely bad. As you know, Governor Whitman has declared a state of emergency, so really non-essential vehicles should not be out here. We've seen mainly four-wheel drive vehicles. They seem to be getting around okay. However, the conditions are really, really terrible. We shot this videotape just about an hour and a half ago on Route 676 in Camden. We found several cars stuck, but the main problem seemed to be the on and off ramps. Cars were getting stuck trying to get onto the road and off. That was the situation with this woman as she tried to exit 676 onto Atlantic Avenue. What did you encounter? Is it the ramp that's got too much snow, or what's the problem?
I was walking, the snowplow's got us plowing in.
I'm trying to get to the fire department to get to the plow so I can plow the snow in firehouses.
So right now, are they waiting for you? Has
Yeah,
any plowing been done? Or?
I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm trying to get there. I came from Lindenwold. I'm trying to get there now.
To their credit, New Jersey DOT plows are out in full force. We saw plow trains with 5 and 6 trucks, such as this one on Route 30. Again, though, visibility is extremely bad, so it's even hard to see the ramps, the on and off ramps when you're on the highway. We also found several cars pulling over to the side, such as this one, pulling under an overpass as she was getting onto Route 676, just to clear the ice from the windshield wipers. It is extremely cold out here, and it doesn't take long for those wipers to freeze up. This is really a dangerous situation. You know, Jim, a short while ago I was listening to the police scanner in the van, and there was an elderly couple stuck in a car with a dead battery. The police had to be dispatched to help that couple. This is a very, very serious situation, and those kinds of situations that not just elderly people, but anyone. The car breaks down. It is extremely cold out here. It could take a while for help to get to that person. So please stay in. This is why the emergency has been declared. I will also tell you, in addition to being a little tricky driving, it could be a little tricky walking too. I happen to step down here, and there I am. Now, the snow, of course, has not accumulated this much yet, but the plows from Route 70 have made a little wall along the side of the road, and I stepped down, and this is where I ended up. So one must be careful walking as well as driving, although as far as driving, you should just keep the car where it is and just kind of enjoy looking out the window. Reporting live from Cherry Hill, I'm Kathy Gandolfo.
Thank you, Kathy. Be careful, please. Let's talk a little bit about transportation. Number one, the airport. The airport did officially close at 2:30 this afternoon, but U.S. Air canceled their flight schedule about 11:30 this morning. That effectively shut down the airport because at least 55-60% of flights coming in and out of Philadelphia are U.S. Air flights. The airport shut down at 2:30. And U.S. Air expects that their operations will resume at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So they are giving themselves much of tomorrow to try to clean up their planes and their facilities to get their operation back up into the sky. That is an estimate, and hopefully it is a realistic one, and hopefully U.S. Air isn't being too optimistic, but right now they are saying 6 o'clock tomorrow, U.S. Air expects to have operations back going at Philadelphia International Airport. Right now, there are about 275 passengers from various airlines, many of them presumably U.S. Air, because U.S. Air has such a large Sky 6 picture of Philadelphia International Airport. It is hard to distinguish it as an airport or anything else for that matter, because that's what a blizzard condition looks like. Visibility less than a quarter of a mile, a virtual whiteout, heavy, heavy snow. And that is a picture of Philadelphia International Airport from Sky 6, although one would hardly know it. And that is as good a definition of the problems at Philadelphia International as one could imagine. Mass transit in Philadelphia, by the way, the Broad Street subway and SEPTA commuter trains are